Good evening, students. Good evening, everyone. Yes, very good evening, Rajveer, Soumya, Tanu, Vishwakarma, Krishna Shri, Almas, Kirti, Divya, everyone, Dhanush, Sahil Kumar. Okay, let me start with questions. Yeah, Jaindra has a question. Ki, sir, whether 10% eligibility criteria not applicable to 80 CCD 1B. See, there are two interpretations, and as per the what you can say, one of the interpretations, it is said that it is not applicable. However, if we see the other interpretation which is commonly used, we are going by that interpretation in many places where we consider that the 10% criteria is not applicable. So that day also we gave both the viewpoints. So for exam purposes, you can solve it without taking the 10% limitation for 80 CCD 1B. Asta says, sir, if any member himself pay under 80G, but 80G, I think we have not yet discussed, na? Or you mean to say any other section? 80G we are going to start today. How to calculate deduction amount like tuition fees given in receipt, we consider as eligible, or we have to see whether tuition fees, there is no limit of 10%, 20%. That 10%, 20% is only for life insurance. For tuition fees, you have to take the bill of your school college. In that bill, you have to find out the amount of tuition fees out of the total invoice, and in the total school invoice, whatever is the tuition fee amount, that is eligible. Yes, Smriti, good evening. Shagufta, good evening. Um, Asta is asking, sir, at page 6.11, please explain 1 and 2 point of 80C. Okay. Jaindra, for CGHS limit, which limit is checked? Okay. See, in case of 80D, that is for Mediclaim wala provision, Jaindra is asking, sir, which limit has to be applied, 25,000 or 50,000? See, firstly, the limit is applicable twice. First, for self-spouse children, which I call as selfish family, and again for parents. So you'll get the limit twice. Now, what is the limit? If the person for whom you are making the payment of this premium and all is a senior citizen, the limit will be 50,000. And if it is not senior, the limit will be 25,000. Now, generally, what we find in the different questions that you will encounter, the selfish family, which will be of my age group people, 40, 45, 50. In that case, the limit of 25,000 will be applicable, but their parents would be definitely given as senior citizens. So for the parents, we will take the limit of 50,000. Okay, Somesh, I'll repeat 80 EEA condition. Jainder is asking home loan interest is 4 lakhs. Okay. 2 lakhs claimed in 24B. Perfect. 1.5 lakhs claimed in 80 EEA. Okay. How much loss is carry forward? See, loss carry forward will be only 2 lakhs, which is the HP loss, Jaindra. Because in 2 lakhs, whatever interest you have claimed since the house is self-occupied, it will become a loss. 1.5 lakhs is the deduction that will get reduced from whatever is the GTI available. And this 2 lakhs loss, to the extent it is adjustable against other incomes, fine. If not, you will carry forward the 2 lakhs loss. Now, if your question is out of 4 lakh interest, 2 lakhs I have claimed in HP, 1.5 I have claimed in EEA, what will happen of balance 50? That balance 50 you have to forego because there is no benefit, no deduction for 50,000. There is no carry forward of that 50,000 because 50,000 is not your loss. Asta sir, in tier 2, we came after exhausting 80 CCD limit. Okay. See, tier 2 beta is what, as I explained that day, within this category of 80 CCD, that is NPS, you are given two types of plans. Now, plan 1, that is Tier 1, is covered in the main section ATCCD. Tier 2, that is which is only allowed to government employees, is covered in the ATC. Now, if you're asking that whether if we have exhausted ATCCD limit, then can we come over there? Please understand, this is covered in ATC. So you have to apply the limits of ATC separately for the Tier 2 plan. So over there, ATCCD limits will not be applicable. Yes, Soumya, good evening. Divya is saying, sir, according to 80 CCD 1B, benefit of 50,000 will be allowed when contribution is made to NPS notified by CG. See, in entire 80 CCD, beta, the NPS is of central government only. Please understand this. NPS is a scheme of central government. So there is no question of it being notified, but okay, for the purpose of understanding, you can say it will be notified, but actually it is a scheme of central government only. Tej Prakash, but I'm sorry, I know this is your dad's name, but I'm not recalling your name because you are again logging by I think your dad's name. Fine. Your query is, sir, 80 and EA में 16-17 के बाद, okay, you are writing in Hindi, so 16-17 के बाद 19 to 22 है, तो बीच के years में deduction not allowed. Correct, बेटा. See, when the first section came, they had put the limit or they had put the condition that loan should have been passed in 16-17. That is the approval of loan. Then they did not feel the need for giving further benefit. Again, in the year 19, again they felt that they should give that benefit. So they brought in another section. That is why they brought in another section EE. And that itself shows that the deduction is not available for the interim period. Interim period means if any loan is passed between that period. So what loan is passed in 16-17, for that deduction continues till today also if the interest is payable under that loan. But if any loan is passed in between, since it is not covered, it will not be eligible. Shagupta beta, selfish family is a terminology used by me to remember it covers 3 persons, which we today call as nucleus family. What is a nucleus family? Husband, wife, and children. So what we call as nucleus family, I'm calling it as selfish family. Asta, sir, in case interest is not taxed before, then even in case of death where nominee received the amount, then that interest portion will be taxable. See, beta, I don't know in what context you're asking this, but I'm assuming you are asking this in the context of 80 DD or DDB. So if you're asking in that context, wherever the nominee receives, whether that amount was taxed or not, in the hands of nominee, it has been specifically mentioned that it will be exempt. Jayendra is asking, sir, deduction claimed under 35 AD, then such business is not eligible for Chapter 6A heading C. Correct. This restriction is for business, not for assessee. I did not get this question, but what do you mean by this? See, the restriction is for what I have understood, I'm explaining according to that. The restriction is that you cannot be allowed deduction of the same business twice. So if you are doing an eligible business which is covered in 35 AD, and again it is covered in heading C, I will give you deduction only under one of the headings, either heading C or 35 AD. For the same business, you cannot get deduction twice. Next question by Jaindra is, in PGBP for claiming deduction under optional regime. But in PGBP for claiming deduction under optional regime, which section beta you are talking about PGBP? Asta beta, you need not differentiate. If they will give you that Tier 1, Tier 2, they will provide you the they will mention you whether it is Tier 1 and Tier 2. You don't have to differentiate. And let me tell you, everything what we are reading is not part of exam. So in exams, they do not go into so much of Tier 1 and Tier 2. But still, if by chance any exam paper does use that, you should keep that in mind that Tier 1 will be covered in ATCCD and Tier 2 will be covered in ATC. And most important, they will mention in the bracket whether it is Tier 1, Tier 2. If nothing is mentioned, you have to consider it under ATCCD, which is Tier 1. Tej Prakash, okay. Same for ATEB 19, 20 to 23, uske baad no deduction. Please understand, beta. See, 19 to 23, your loan should have been passed. If the loan is passed in that period, then understand one thing. If your loan is passed in that period, your Housing loan may run for 20 years. So you will get deduction for 20 years. It is not that uske baad deduction nahi milega. Deduction milega. But the point is that the period which is given in ATEE and EEA is the period during which the loan should have been approved or sanctioned by the bank. If the bank approves the loan in that period, then whatever interest you are paying for that loan, for whatever period is the loan, it may be 10, 15, 20 years, you will get deduction. Shagufta, the point is, it is that either AOP or the member, one can get deduction. If the payment is made by AOP, then member cannot get deduction. That is what is the point. There is no such thing that member of AOP cannot get a deduction under ATC 280. So member of AOP will be some individual. If it is, then individuals are eligible. It is not that they cannot get deduction. It is that either if AOP has claimed deduction, they will not get again for the same amount, or second, where AOP has made payment, they will not get deduction because the payment is made by AOP. Asked, sir, when the employee will receive remaining 75%, then the remaining 25% that were received before by employee. Asta, but I'm not getting the context of your question. You are saying when the employee will receive remaining 75%. Remaining of what? Then see, you're using the word remaining twice. The employee will receive remaining 75%, then the remaining 25% that were received before by employee in ATCCD will become taxable in that year. Achha, I think you're talking about partial withdrawal. See, in partial withdrawal, see, if you are withdrawing at the end, that is after the closure of the scheme, then up to 60% is exempt. If you are withdrawing in between and it is a partial withdrawal, then 25% is exempt. So 25 will remain exempt. And if you withdraw more than 25%, let us say in partial withdrawal, you have done withdrawal of 40%. Then that balance 15 will be taxable because for partial withdrawal, the exemption is of 25%. So at the end of the scheme, for the total withdrawal, exemption is 60%. When the scheme is in continuance and you do partial withdrawal, the exemption 5%. So if let us say your partial withdrawal is 40%, remaining 15% is taxable. If your partial withdrawal is, let us say 55%, then 55 minus 25, 30% is taxable. That is how it will be interpreted. When remember one thing, whatever you have withdrawn now, at the closure, you'll get the balance only. Yes, beta, Tej Prakash, you're right. Tanu is asking, sir, in ATD, if individual taken a medical insurance for self and spouse and for parents and parents in senior, then the deduction allowed is 75. See, Tanu, what you are saying is principally right, but it is incorrect because you cannot take the total limit of 75. If you remember in my example also, there is a possibility that for the selfish family, you have made more payment, which is more than 25,000, but your deduction is limited to 25. And for senior citizen parents, you have made payment which is below 50,000 and your limit is 50,000, you'll get the lower amount. Now, if you club both the limits, then effectively what will happen? You may be utilizing the deduction limit of your parents for the selfish family, which is not allowed. So you should not say that the total deduction is 75, though principally it is correct. You will make two separate columns, one for selfish family where your limit will remain 25. You compare the payment over there with 25 and take whichever is lower. Second column you will do for parents who are senior citizen where the limit will be 50,000 and you'll compare parents payment with 50,000, whichever is lower. Good. Now Asta has a very important question. She says, sir, can it happen that a person who is not a senior citizen but not able to get policy due to his health condition as Section 80D, then he will be getting the deduction of medical expenditure? The answer is no, because medical expenditure is restricted for the time being in 80D only for senior citizens. So unfortunately, what you are saying is practically a situation, but for the time being, the law has not covered that situation. Divya is asking, sir, as per 80D4A, the deduction of appropriate fraction will be allowed in the subsequent year. 80D4A, and you're saying appropriate fraction. But please mention the page number. So then at the closure in 80CCD, whatever we get after partial withdrawal will only be taxable. See, so what will happen Now let us say at the time of partial withdrawal, you have taken exemption of 25%. Now at the time of total withdrawal, you are allowed total 60%. Out of 60, 25 we have used at the time of partial. So only the balance percentage deduction should be allowed at the time of total withdrawal, Asta. Divya is saying page number 6.36. Okay. I'll open page number 6.36. In the meantime, if I'm not wrong, somebody else had also put some query with some page number. I'll request that person to please repeat that query. Means the page number and the query. Okay, now I have come to page number 36. Your question was ATD 4A, the deduction of appropriate fraction is allowed in the subsequent year. What is this appropriate fraction? So deduction where premium for health insurance is paid in lump sum. Okay, correct. Now see, what is this lump sum? This deduction, what we are discussing of any premium is the premium that you pay every year. So in life insurance, you get under 80C. In case of health insurance, you get under 80D. Now, many times what happen, people like, let us say someone is getting retired from job. At that time, he is getting some lump sum amount from his employer. So what he does is he does not know that in future whether he will be able to pay the premium or not. So he contracts with the insurance company that let us do one thing. I will pay my 10 years premium to you at once because today I have money at the time of my uh, salary or my employment closure because I've got gratuity and so many things. So I'll make a lump sum payment and you give me this insurance for next 10 years. Now in this particular case, sorry, if it is specifically given that this insurance is for 10 years, then what you'll do, mathematics, simple mathematics, you'll take in the numerator your total insurance divided by the number of relevant previous year. So let us say it is 10. So you get the amount applicable to each previous year. Then it says the previous year in which lump sum amount is paid and the subsequent year during which the insurance would be in force. Okay, this is how to do, how you decide the total number of years. Now, what you will do is whatever amount you got, you will take the deduction of that amount in each of the relevant previous year. See, it is very clearly written. The deduction allowable under this section for each of the relevant previous year. So it is simple maths like what we do in straight line calculations. What is the logic over here, beta? Okay, Astha. Sir, in ATDD, explain the condition that on attaining the age of 60 years at page 6.40. Okay, beta. Another question she's asking, sir, in ATDDB, if HF get medical treatment of two or more persons, still HF. Yes, beta. The limit remains same. Whether you are getting treatment of one person done or more person done, this rule applies for individual also and even for HF also. Whoever is getting the treatment done, the answer remains same, right? Just a moment. Now your query is on 6.40. Okay. And 6.40, your query is on attaining the age of 60. Disabled being a person before his death by way of annuity lump sum under a scheme mentioned in 2 of A above. That is when the individual member attains the age of 60 or more and the payment or deposit to such scheme has been discontinued. Okay. See, what is the scheme? Let us say somebody is dependent on me. And for that person, I'm making payment of this particular policy. Now, what does the policy says? First, if anything happens to me, who is the payer of this? And I'm the person who is earning and the other person is dependent on me. So I am making payment for that particular person's treatment or I am making payment for that particular person's policy, the special policy. So if let us say I die before, then also a lump sum payment will be given to nominee. That is that particular dependent disabled person. It will be fully active. Second, the policy is so designed that I will also have to pay premium up to my attaining age of 60. Understand this. Because after 60, I will become senior. I may not be in a position to make payment because that is my end of earning age. So the policy is so designed that at the age, if I attain the age of 60 and nothing has happened to me, then also the dependent disabled person gets the lump sum amount under the scheme. And in that case, also it remains exempt. So in very simple words, if I have to put this in very simple words, if I will get the lump sum amount from the scheme, it will be taxable. Now, when I will get only in one case when the disabled person dies before me. I will get the payment. In that case, it will be fully taxable. The other possibility is the disabled person gets the lump sum payment. That will happen one, if I die before that person, or two, I attain the age of 60, after which I don't have to pay or deposit in the scheme. In short, the scheme automatically matures when I attain the age of 60. At that time, in these two cases, the nominee, the disabled dependent person, will get the payment, and in that case, it will be exempt. Correct, Bada? Next question, sir. It means in 80DD, it means in 80DDB is not per person. Yes, but that was the point that day itself. I gave you example. If even if two people are dependent, your limit remains the same. If only the thing is out of two, one is uh, severely disabled, you will get the higher amount. Or in case of 80DDB, if one of is senior citizen, your limit increases. But the limit is applicable overall, whether one person or more than one person. Right? Okay. See, I gave you here that if there are two persons, what will happen? Whether the limit will be multiplied by two? Answer is no. It will be either 75 or 125, anyone. If both the persons dependent on you are not severely disabled, then the limit remains or the amount remains 75. Here, the 75 is the amount of deduction. शगुफ्ता बेटा, मैंने डीम्ड इनकम को एक्सप्लेन किया, मैं वापस आपके लिए एक्सप्लेन करता हूँ। ये जो 80DD वाला कंडीशन है, जहां पे मैं मेरे डिसेबल पर्सन के लिए कोई पॉलिसी निकालता हूँ, उस केस में अगर मुझे कुछ हो जाता है तो उस डिसेबल पर्सन को लमसम अमाउंट मिलेगा जो उसके लिए एग्जम्प्ट रहेगा। मुझे कुछ नहीं होता है मगर मेरा एज 60 हो जाता है तो भी डिसेबल पर्सन को लमसम अमाउंट मिलता है। इन दैट केस ऑल्सो इट रिमेन्स एग्जम्प्ट। सिंपल रूल इज, अगर डिसेबल पर्सन को पॉलिसी का पैसा मिलता है वो हमेशा एग्जम्प्ट रहेगा। पर अगर डिसेबल पर्सन को कुछ हो जाता है और फिर मुझे पॉलिसी का पैसा मिलता है तो मुझे वो हमेशा टैक्सेबल रहेगा। नाउ I have a request to explain the conditions of ATEE. So firstly, ATEE and EEA both deals with housing loan interest. What is the condition? I'm just giving you a parallel understanding because parallel will be helpful. So firstly, eligible is an individual who has taken a loan for acquiring a residential property from financial institution, and interest payable on such loan will be eligible for deduction. ATEE says what? Individual has taken a loan for acquisition of property from financial institution, interest payable would be eligible. So this part is same. Main difference is in the conditions. Condition is in case of EE, they have given for the value of the house, they have not asked you to check the actual value, they have asked you to check the stamp value. The stamp value should not exceed 45 lakhs. First condition. Second condition, the loan should be sanctioned between this. So the loan will continue even today because it is a long-term loan, but it should have been sanctioned in that particular period. And one additional point, which is here but not in the other provisions, is individuals should not own any residential house on the date of sanction. It means this should be the only house, or in other words, for buying your own house, you are taking this loan. This is implied condition. Now, what are the parallel conditions here? So this remains same. The assessee should not own any residential house on that date. So see, only in 80EE and EA you have this condition. This condition is not there for other sections where you get the benefit of interest. For example, in HP, over there, up to two houses allowed. Here, up to two houses not allowed. Similarly, in 80C, you get the deduction for the principal component of the same loan. Over there also, this condition is not there. So this condition that this should be your only house so that I will give you the deduction of this interest is applicable only in this condition or in this part of 80EE or EE. Now here you have two limits. Here they have said value of the house, not stamp value. So it would be the actual value of the house should not exceed 50 lakhs. And one more limit is that the loan sanction should not exceed 35 lakhs. Here the loan should have been sanctioned in 1617 only. Maximum limit is 50,000, and this limit will be over and above the 2 lakhs limit, which is applicable in case your property is self-occupied. Here the limit is 150, and again this is over and above the deduction available under 24 clause B in respect of interest payable on loan borrowed for acquisition of residential house. Correct. Fine, that's it. Still, if there is any confusion, let me just check. So I think I answered both persons' queries. One Somesh had asked, second Asta is asking, as we get full interest deduction. So Asta, better tell me one thing, where you will get full interest deduction above. Why do you want this section? And see, that is why they have put this point. The interest allowed as deduction under this section will not be allowed as deduction under any other provisions of this act. So it is obvious, if you are able to claim the entire deduction in your HP head itself, then why will you come and take deduction here? Or why will anybody allow you the deduction here? So your deduction is already taken in HP head. That's it. Why will you require a deduction here, beta? Right now? Great. Any further queries, students? Anybody? Any further questions? If anybody's query, if by chance I have missed out, you can just repost your query, please. At least from my side, whatever queries I'm scrolling back, I think I have covered everyone's query. Okay. Now let me go to ATG. G for God, and for God there is donation. Now, when I say G for God and for God there is donation, so basically why I'm using this analogy so that you remember what this section covers. Now, this section basically covers donation, which are divided into four categories. Firstly, two, and then again, subpart is two. So, what are these four categories? First is donation to funds. The second is donations to institutions. In case of funds, there is no limit. In case of institutions, there is limit. Correct? So there are two types of categories in which the deduction is allowed. One, donation is given to funds. The other is donation is given to institutions. Now, what is the difference? Now, generally, what we have seen is we have been giving donation to institutions. Now, when we give donation to institutions, example is you give donation to any religious institutions. You give to a religious body, it is an institution. You give to some charitable trust, some social activist or NGO, all these are institutions. Funds we have not been very much accustomed with because we have never given donation to funds. But what are funds? I'll give you the example. So when this COVID was going on, at that time, the government has urged that we should put donation in PM CARES fund so that whatever extra expenses the government is incurring in providing free vaccination or making all the things available to us during the COVID times, that could be met. So funds are, in very simple layman's language, bank accounts. So a fund is a bank account where you are supposed to give the donation, and that fund or that account is opened for a special purpose. Your money deposited in the fund is used for that specific purpose. That is what is a fund. Institution is an organization, like we go to a school, college, it is educational institution. We go to some orphanage, it is a charitable institution. We go to some uh, uh, home for the aged, home for some disabled persons, some physically challenged persons, blind people. For their benefit, there is NAB, National Association for the Blind. All these are institutions. So there are two categories where the deduction is allowed under ATG. If you are giving donation to funds, there is no limit. If you are giving donation to institutions, there is a limit. Now, if you are giving donation to institutions, since there is a limit, your qualifying amount means amount which is eligible for deduction will be lower of the amount of donation that you have given and the limit. What is the limit that we will check? So for the category of institutions, you have to first find out the qualifying amount because there is a limit to this. This qualifying amount is amount of donation that you are making compared with the limit which is applicable, whichever is lower. That becomes the qualifying amount. Now, I said there are four categories of donations. What are those four? Within each of these categories, there are further two subdivisions. That is about how much deduction I will allow you of the qualifying amount. So the further sub two categories is I will allow either 100% of the qualifying amount as deduction or 50%. 100%, 50%. Now here, since there is no limit, there is no question of qualifying amount because whatever is your donation, entire donation is qualifying amount. So here you simply multiply 100% by the amount of donation or 50% by the amount of donation. Here, since there is a limit, you have to first find out the qualifying amount by this method and then multiply the qualifying amount by 100%, 50% as the case may be. So there are four categories of donations: funds, institutions. Within funds, 150. Within institutions, 150. Funds no limit, institutions limit. Is this clear? Now this rule what I have given you, funds no limit, institutions limit, this rule is the rule applicable for this entire ATG deduction because if you see the list given over here, they have given you the list in four parts. Like I said, there are four categories. First, they are saying donation qualifying for 100% and there is no limit. Second category is donations which are qualifying for 50% and again there is no limit. And then the third category is 100% deduction but subject to the limit. 50% deduction subject to the limit. So these are the four categories. Now, I have given you the logic that what is covered in the first and the second category is funds. What is covered in the third and the fourth category is institutions. This will help you remember where or what is the deduction. Because if in the exam problem they have given you the name of any of these, you should be able to recall where it is falling and what is the deduction. Now, this rule which I have given you, funds and institution, this rule hardly has 2 to 3 exceptions. What do I mean by exception? Exception means whatever rule we have made, that is not applicable. Otherwise, except those 2 to 3 exceptions, for entire list, what you can see in front of your screens or in your modules, which is running around 40 to 45 names are there. For all 40 to 45 names, this rule is applicable. So if you see, for example, this list, sorry, you will find all the names majorly with funds. Now I said there are 2 to 3 exceptions. First exception is this. Second exception is this. But otherwise, again, you have all different funds. Third exception is this. So these are the exceptions where instead of funds, they have covered institutions. But other than this, entire list is of fund. So it is easy to remember wherever in the exam problem the name given is fund, you should remember that it is without any limit. Only exception is these different institutions. Now, it is easy to remember these institutions also because one is the institution working for communal harmony. Then you have two other institutions which are related with education, like this one and this one. Jila Saksharta Samiti, it is also for education. And the other one is relating to medical, that is a blood transfusion council. So one is for communal harmony, two are for education, and one is for medical, that is blood transfusion council. Except these three categories, all other are benefits which are for donation to funds. Now, similar to this is the other list, or rather, there is only one name here, where you are making payment to Prime Minister's Drought Relief Fund. So here only you have 50. For all other funds, you have 100. Remember one thing, in the above list of 100, you will find Prime Minister named multiple funds. So you should not get confused because Prime Minister named multiple funds are there in this list, but they are all 100%. Only where it is Prime Minister's Drought Relief Fund, that is only where it is in 50. Correct? Now, coming to the other category, which is of institutions. If you see, in this category, in the other two lists, you'll get the names of institutions only, like it is government or it is donation to Indian Olympic Association. So where you are giving donation to institutions, it will always fall in the category of limited, right? Now, here, who are given 100% deduction, though there is a limit, but the deduction is 100%. One, where the institution is working for family planning or it is working for sports development in India. Now, both these are our top priorities today. Family planning is one of the things which the government is focusing on since the 1990s because controlling population is one of the key. And since past few years, government has paid a lot of thrust on promotion of sports development in India. So that is also covered over here. Now, remaining all types of institutions are covered in 50%. So institutions which are working for charitable purposes, institutions which are working for the overall planning and development of cities, towns. Similarly, institutions which are working for the benefit of minority community, which are working for the, we use this word for the reconstruction, redevelopment of all the notified religious places. So all these are institutions. And for institutions, there is going to be a limit. What is that limit that we are going to check? I hope this is clear to everyone. Nidhi beta, quantum of deduction means the amount of deduction. I think this question you had asked last time also. Quantum means amount. Now, what is the qualifying limit? Now, this qualifying limit concept is applicable only in the other two categories because only there is a maximum limit. And as we had discussed, the qualifying limit will be lower of the two amounts. So what are the two amounts? One is the donation, that is the aggregate sum that you have paid or to all the different types of donation list given, and compare it with the limit which is 10% of your adjusted GTI. So what is the limit? The limit is 10% of adjusted GTI. Now, what is this adjusted GTI? That is what we have to check. Now, they have tried to explain you how to compute adjusted GTI. So first, we reach to GTI. That is, we have added all the 5 heads. Wherever there are losses, we have adjusted the losses. We have done clubbing of income. All these things will give you the end result as your GTI, that is gross total income. Now from this the GTI, you will subtract. What you will subtract? You will subtract all deductions under this chapter except ATG. Why? Because ATG we are still computing, we are yet to compute. So you will subtract all deductions except ATG. And then you will also subtract these special rate incomes. One is short-term 111A, long-term 112, 112. Correct? Next, any income on which tax is not payable. that is exempt incomes. So all these things, once they are reduced, that will become your adjusted GTI. So adjusted GTI is you compute GTI, from that subtract all deductions of chapter 6A except ATG because that is yet to be computed, and the special rate incomes. This is what is your adjusted GTI. Now take 10% of this adjusted GTI. This is your maximum limit. Now apply this limit to whichever is lower of the two is your qualifying amount. And then comes the final quantum of deduction, that is amount of deduction. The amount of deduction will be 100% multiplied by this qualifying amount if the donation is of 100% category. If it is of 50% category, then 50% multiplied by the qualifying amount. This will be your final donation amount. Sorry, deduction amount. Then some clarificatory points, similar point which you find in every other section. If you have claimed deduction under any other section, then again you cannot claim deduction under this section. This is obvious. So if you remember, in PGBP also we are giving you deduction for donation. So if you have claimed there, you cannot claim here, right? Just a minute, please. Yeah. So the first point is double deduction cannot be allowed. Now, very important point which is relevant for your exams is this. If in the question they have given that you have donated gold worth of X amount, even though it is donated to any of these organizations, no deduction. So point is donation which is only in monetary form is only eligible. Whatever is in non-monetary form will not be eligible. That is what is the point. So donation, if it is in non-monetary form, like as I gave you example of gold, or let us say you have given some blankets, or you have given some, let us say a land parcel you have given a building to some trust, that is what is not eligible, right? Next, very important. Now, even though I'm saying that the donation should be in monetary form, then only you are eligible, but that monetary form should not be cash. So if you want to get deduction, the donation should be in mode other than cash. Cash is allowed, but only up to 2000. So why this is done? This is done to ensure that black money is not diverted in the form of donation. So wherever we are talking about donation, the donation in cash to 2000 will be allowed. If it is exceeding 2000, then the donation in cash will not be allowed. Fine. Next, deduction under this section can be claimed whether it has nexus with business of the assessee or not. This is irrelevant. Now this is what is relevant again. This circular dated 2005. What does it say? Where employees make donations to the Prime Minister National Relief Fund, which is now also called as PM CARES Fund, the Chief Minister's Relief Fund, Lieutenant Governor's Relief Fund, etc., through their employers. Now, what is this? Now, again, this happened at the time of COVID, when the government urged people to donate to the PM CARES Fund. Now, people can donate as small amount as 100 rupees. Somebody wants to donate 5,000. So, what government did for better administration, they asked the employers to collect the donation of all the employees and give one lump sum amount to the government. So let us say there are 1,000 employees in this company. Some donated 100, some donated 500, some donated 50,000, some donated 10,000, and a total of 50 crore rupees was collected by the employer. The employer gave it to PM CARES Fund, obviously stating that this is the donation by different employees. Now, in this particular case, the problem is that when you want to take this deduction under this ATG receipt is given, which is a proof that you have given donation. Now, In this case, there will be a single receipt given by government. In fact, that was the purpose of bringing this particular type of mechanism so that the government need not issue small receipt of 150 and 500 rupees. So they asked the employer to collect the donation from all the employees and give one lump sum amount. So the government also gave one single receipt of 50 crore to the employer. But every one of us needed to claim this deduction because every one of us has contributed some amount. So for that case, they said that it is not possible for fund to issue separate certificate to every employee. Hence, what they did is they gave the employer one receipt and they claim deduction under this section. And it is clarified that the claim in respect of such donation, as indicated above, will be admissible under ATG on the basis of certificate which is given by the employer. So that is what is clarified by this circular. And this was used a lot during this COVID times when the government again approached the people for asking them to donate to the PM CARES fund. Okay. The claim of assessee for deduction in respect of donation made to any institution or fund referred to in point 1 under 4, that is donation, which is having 50% donation and is subject to limit, in return of income of assessment year filed by him, will be allowed on the basis of information relating to said donation furnished by the institution. Now, what is this? Now, up to 2 years back, all this certificate business was there. That you need a certificate, you need a receipt. Now, the government has added one more condition that, let us say, as an individual, as an assessee, you gave donation to a trust. This is a ATG trust. ATG means which is covered under this section. Now, the trust has to give you a receipt or a certificate. That is fine. That is now a condition right from the day one. But now there is additional condition that this trust should also upload the details of all these donees. That is a person who have given donation on the income tax website. So like how you file return, in the same fashion, this trust has to furnish the details of all these donees on the income tax website. So now two conditions are to be satisfied. One, old condition that the trust will give you a certificate or a receipt, which is a proof you have given donation. Fine. But at the same time, the trust has to upload the details of this donation. And if the trust has not uploaded or furnished the details of this donation to the income tax authority, that is by uploading it on the CBDT portal, you will not get the deduction. In order that you get the deduction, the second condition has now been made applicable since past 2-3 years. So this is an example of how you get the deduction. So the question starts with GTI. From GTI, you will subtract all deductions except ATG, because ATG you require some working to be done. So other than ATG, whatever are the different payments under various sections, like for ATC, you will add up all the list of ATC. The total is 178, but we know the maximum limit is restricted to 150, so the outer column is 150. Then under ATD, you make payment for selfish family, and where no one is senior, then the limit is 25. So the limit is, because the total payment is 26, so the deduction becomes 25, which is the limit. Now, when you come to ATG, in ATG, first you make the category. What is the category? The category is of funds and of institutions. So in this example, there are donation to two different funds. One is National Children Fund and one is the Drought Relief Fund. Now, for Drought Relief Fund, we know that the deduction is 50, and for National Children, we know it is 100. Here, whatever is the amount donated, that is multiplied by the respective percentage to get the deduction amount. Done. So for funds, no further working required. Simply amount of donation multiplied by the respective percentages, you get the amount of deduction. But when you come to institutions, you cannot directly get the deduction by simply taking the donation amount and multiplying it by percentage. Like we know, for family planning, the percentage of deduction is 100, but there is a qualifying limit. Similarly, for other institutions, the deduction is 50, but there is a qualifying limit. Now, what is that qualifying limit? The qualifying limit is 10% of adjusted GTI. So what we have to do is we have to find out adjusted GTI. Now that you can understand from this. So your total is 775 GTI minus other deductions. How much is the other deductions? It is 150 and 25 is 175 minus incomes which are liable to special rate like short term under 111A or long term. If that is given in the list of the income, no. They have said 775, which is comprising of salary and HP. So there is no special rate income. So nothing else has to be deducted. Otherwise, you will subtract that also. So 775 is GTI, which is comprising salary and HP. From that, other deductions except ATG. So what is left after this is 6 lakhs. And 10% of 6 lakhs is 60,000. So this is how you get your maximum limit of 60,000. Now, we have two donations, one of 40,000, one of 50,000, and my maximum limit is 60,000. So one thing is for sure, both these amounts will not be eligible. Now what I do is I use my limit 60,000 firstly for this 40,000. So 40,000 multiplied by 100%, I get 40,000. Now I have used my 40,000 limit over here. So now what limit is left? It is 20,000. So 20,000 I will use here. So this amount, that is donation, compared with 20,000, whichever is lower. So what is my qualifying amount? Qualifying amount is 20,000 multiplied by 50%. So I get the deduction of 10,000. So this is how this maximum limit of 10% is applicable. And then adding up all these deductions, I get my final deduction under ATG, which will be subtracted here to get my taxable income. Let us take your queries. Priyanshi is asking, sir, how not in cash and plus other than kind both are possible? Priyanshi, but I had already explained that. I had explained this, saying that when I say not in kind means I want in monetary form, money form. But money does not only means cash. You have now so many options, QR code scanning, online, NEFT, RTGS, check, so many other options. So possible, na? I don't want in kind also, and I don't want in cash also. So how you will make payment? You will make payment in money form, but the money would be in the form of transfer through your bank account by giving a check or doing NEFT, RTGS online. Acha. Okay. Correct. Good reaction. I liked your reaction. Dhanush beta, how we got 60,000? So I explained GTI is 775 minus the other two deductions, ATC which is 150, ATD which is 25. So how much is left after you deduct 775 minus 150 and 25? You get 6 lakhs. 6 lakhs ka 10% is 60,000. Yes, Asta beta, correct. Fine, everyone. Now, GG. GG is Gharguti. This is my full form made for this. As the name suggests, it deals with rent paid for your house. Now let us understand what this section is intending. This section gives benefit to all of us. If any of us are staying in a rented house, it means we are paying rent for this accommodation that we are occupying for our residence. And also a condition is put that I should not be receiving HRA. So firstly, either I should not be a salaried employee like myself. I'm not anybody's employee. So for me, this deduction is available. So either I should not be a salaried employee, one, or even if I'm salaried employee, I am not taking the HRA benefit, which you would have studied under the salary chapter, where you take HRA exemption under section 10 bracket 13A. Now, if I satisfy this condition, then I am eligible for deduction under ATG. Now, what does ATG says? ATG says my deduction will be least of the three amounts. What are the three amounts? First is whatever rent I am making payment of minus 10% of my total income. Now, even though they have used the word total income, it is again the adjusted gross total income, which we just saw in ATG. So same thing. You have to take 10% of your adjusted GTI. Second is take 25% of your adjusted GTI. Now see here they have explained what is total income. It is arrived at after making all deductions under chapter 6A, but before this section. And last is 5,000 per month. So there are three amounts given. Least of these three is your final deduction. So what is the amount of deduction? The amount of deduction is rent paid minus 10%, 25% of adjusted UTI, or 5,000 per month. Now, if I have to compare it with something, it is very similar to your HRA exemption under 1013A. It was also list of three amounts. First amount was rent paid minus 10% of salary. Second amount was 40 or 50% of salary, depending upon whether you are in metro or non-metro. And the third amount was HRA received. If you compare this section, you will find similarity with HRA. And why similarity? Because both are giving benefit for the same purpose. What is that same purpose? The same purpose is paying rent of your house. And that is why this section has put the first condition that I will not give you deduction under this section if you are already getting benefit of HRA. Because over there, we have already given you benefit for the same thing, that is for your rented accommodation. So why will I give you benefit twice? So if you claim benefit under HRA, which is similar to this, I will not give you deduction under ATGG. If HRA benefit not taken, not applicable, then you come over here and take deduction, which is as per this working. Fine, students? Pawan Kumar is asking, sir, 1,50,000 कैसे आया? Pawan beta, 1,50,000 is the maximum limit for ATC. I believe you are talking about the previous question. Now Nidhi is asking, sir, 40-50% कैसे आया? बेटा HRA exemption 1013A list of three में एक अमाउंट है 40% ऑफ सैलरी और 50% ऑफ सैलरी. 50% आप कब लेते हो? इफ यू आर स्टेइंग इन अ मेट्रोपॉलिटन सिटी. If you are not staying in metropolitan city, you will take 10%. Understood? I hope you remember HRA calculation. Good. Asa is asking, sir, if under ATG member of AOP BOI gives donation at personal level, then that member will get deduction. Obviously. So whoever makes payment, that person will get deduction. But if you have any what you said, a doubt about that, just go and check that condition. I believe there is some confusion with you. That is why you are asking this question for the second time. This is, I think, one of the conditions under 80A. Please go and read that condition again if you have any doubt. The condition is simple. I will not give you the deduction twice for the same thing. So either AOP BOI takes, you will not take, and where AOP BOI has paid, you will not take. So if you want to take, you paid, I'll give you the deduction. Then comes ATGGA. If you remember, at the start I had mentioned it is donation. G for God, and for God there is donation, and the second part is donation for GAO. So this section gives deduction where you are making donation payment for. One is scientific research. To whom? To approved university, college, etc. Second, you are giving donation for undertaking programs which are for rural development, which are approved by a prescribed authority and which are covered in 35 CCA. Or you are making payment of donation to a public sector company, local authority, again, which is approved by national committee. And what it is doing, it is carrying out eligible project or scheme. Or you are directly making payment for rural development by way of donation to the Rural Development Fund or to the National Urban Poverty Eradication Fund. So if you are making payment to any of these, you get deduction under ATGGA. Now, if you look at the section numbers which are referred over here, And anyway, scientific research, you remember it is 35 different sections. You will recall that we had same deduction under PGBP. If you remember under PGBP head, when we were studying, the question was if you make donation, whether PGBP gives you deduction. The answer is no. However, where the donation is covered under any provisions of 35, like as you can see, you are getting deduction under PGBP. Now, since for the same donation you are getting deduction under PGBP, hence the very first condition of this section is that the assessee should not be having PGBP income. Why? Because if you are already having PGBP income, I would have already given you this deduction under the head PGBP itself. So same like the previous one, where you are getting HRA, you are taking the deduction under salary head in HRA category itself. I will not give you the above deduction. Similarly, if you are having PGBP income, you can take the deductions over there itself. Hence, we will not give you over here. In other words, this deduction is given to people who are not in business. So let us say you are doing a job and you are making donation for scientific research, which is in national interest. Again, you are making payment of donation to all these projects or rural development or poverty eradication, which is again in national interest. You will get deduction, but you will get deduction under this section. Fine. Again, same point. Payment should not be made by way of cash. In cash, only up to 2000 is allowed. Over and above 2000, cash donations are not allowed. Then comes GGB and GGC. What is it? Both sections deals with what? Donation to political parties. God is satisfied by single donation. Political parties require multiple donation. That is why 2 times G. So what donation you make in G? Multiples of that, because political parties never satisfied with 100, 500. They want in lakhs and crores. And B and C are today the biggest political parties of India. Because easy way of remembering this section, GGB, GGC. Now you'll say, sir, if both the sections are for donations given to political parties, why there are 2 sections? The reason is, first, GGB is giving donation where, deduction where the donation is done by Indian company, and GGC is giving deduction where the donation is by any person. Obviously, here any person means other than Indian company, because that is already covered above. Except this, the entire section, both the section word to word is same. So what both the section says? So first is you should be making donation to political parties. Now what are the conditions? Again, no deduction if the donation is in cash. Second, this deduction will not be eligible, not be available to a local authority, artificial jurisdictional person who is funded by government. Obvious reasons. If somebody is funded by government, they cannot give donation to political parties. Otherwise, it will be a problem. Next, what is a political party? It is the party which is registered under this act with the Election Commission of India. So, any political party which is unregistered, see, there are multiple political parties. Payment to any political party is not allowed until unless that political party is a registered political party. So this is what is ATGGB and GGC. Now, now we move on to the next section, which is ATJJAA. Do gulam, do ike. Employee, employer. Now, what is this section dealing with? This section gives deduction to employer who is obviously having the PGBP income head. Now, please understand, interestingly, this is the section which gives you deduction for the same payment twice. What is this payment? Now, since you are an employer, you are having one of the expenses under the head PGBP of salary. So under the PGBP head, you have already been allowed deduction of salary income. Sorry, salary income for employee, for you it is salary expense. Now, if you satisfy the requirements of this section, the same salary is again allowed to you as deduction under JJAA. So not the entire salary. We are going to come to the details. But the point is, the salary has already been claimed by you as deduction under PGBP for the first time. And the same salary for the second time is allowed to you deduction under this section. So if you remember the earlier sections, everywhere in the previous earlier sections, the language used was that if deduction is claimed under that section, it will not again be allowed under this section. So that was a specific restriction. However, if you look at here, there is no such specific restriction because in fact, this section allows you the deduction for the same expenditure for the second time. So the same salary which you have claimed as deduction under PGBP, some portion of that you will again claim under this section ATJJAA. Fine. Is this clear to all? Now, what are the conditions? First condition, we will give deduction of JJAA to those persons who are covered in 44AB. Now, what was 44AB? In PGBP head, we had covered this section which dealt with those assessees who have to compulsorily get their books audited and submit the audit report by 30th September of the assessment year and then file their returns by 31st of October. So where you are a PGBP assessee that is having business income, profession income, and your business turnover exceeds the limit, so you are also covered in the compulsory audit. For them, this deduction is allowed. Now, what is the quantum? That is the amount of deduction. It is 30% of the additional salary. Employee cost means salary. Now, interestingly, this is allowed for 3 years. So the 30% in year 1, year 2, year 3, 30, 30, 30. So let us say under the PGBP head, the salary deduction is rupees 100. So you have got this 100 rupees deduction already. Now 30 rupees will again be allowed in the same year, 30 in the next year, again 30 in the next year. So effectively, I'm allowing you 90 rupees for this same salary second time. First 100 rupees salary, you took deduction under PGBP head, and then from that salary 30, 30, 30, that is total 90 is allowed under chapter 6A. The only point is everybody's salary is not allowed. Only the salary which is given to additional employees. What is additional employee? That you'll understand in the next point. Only the salary which is given to additional employees is what is allowed as deduction. Now, what is additional employee? The additional employee means the additional employees employed during the year. So let us say we are talking about 2024-25 because this year's computation we are doing now. We are in assessment year 25-26 and in the year of your exams, always consider the year of your exam as the assessment year. So you'll automatically understand which previous year sums are applicable. So this is our previous year. Now, we go to a prior year. That is, we go to 23-24. Now, in this year, your total workforce was 1,000 employees. And in this year, you increase this to 1,000, let us say 95 employees. Now, this 95 is your additional employees because 1,000 you already had. So this 95 is your additional employees. And what deduction I am going to allow you over here is only the salary which is paid to this 95 employees, not the entire 1,095 employees. So that is what is the special point over here. So that is why I mentioned earlier that I will give you deduction only for some specific employees, not all. And who are these? These are the additional employees. Acha, this is not the end of the condition. We still have more conditions. This is just the first main condition that you will get this salary deduction of salary paid to this particular additional employee that you have to keep in mind. So it is not all employee, it is only the additional employee for which we are giving you this deduction. Correct? Fine. Now, interestingly, they have explained what this additional employee would mean in case of existing business. If there is no increase, so previous year also you had 1,000, this year also you had 1,000 or even less than 1,000, then what is the additional employee? The additional employee is nil. So there will be no deduction because the additional employee will become nil. Correct? However, if you have increased the number of employees over and above the previous year's total number of employees, then only the salary which you are paying to these new extra employees, that is what will be covered. I hope this is clear to all. Fine. Now the main part. What is this main part? The main part is if these employees are high pay employees, again, you will not be getting deduction. So in short, the employees should not be high paid employees. Now, how do you get to know this? For this, there is some condition given over here that the employees whose total emolument means salary, is more than 25,000 per month. Again, they are excluded from the definition of additional employee. So firstly, additional employee means who has been employed during the previous year and whose employment has affected in the increasing the total number of employees. So both points are connected. So if there is no increase, your employee or additional employee is nil, so no deduction. Further to that, even if there is increase, so the number of employees has increased, but these employees should not be in the higher bracket of salary. In short, we will give you deduction where you are employee the lower grade of employees, mainly the worker class employees. That is only where this deduction is available. Correct? Next, another condition is that you should compulsorily pay this amount by way of account paycheck or draft or electronic, etc., etc. Something similar to 40A3 condition. If you are not making payment to employees by this mechanism, then again, there is no deduction. So the deduction is not allowed if you are making payment to employee otherwise than by this mechanism. So in short, you have to compulsorily pay by this mechanism only. That is what we have studied in 48.3. That is either by way of account pay, check, draft, etc., etc. Next, interestingly, if it is the first year of a new business, now this is your lottery. In the first year, all employees are additional employees. So interestingly, in the first year of a new business, there is a jackpot because all employees will be considered as additional employees and you will be getting the deduction of the employee cost. Understand this. So for Existing business, the condition is additional will be the new employees, which is going to increase the number of total workforce. In case of new business, for which this is the first year, all employees, obviously who are satisfying the conditions below, all employees are your additional employees. That is, all employees' salary will be eligible for deduction over here who satisfy the further conditions. Now, what are these further conditions? First, the employee should be falling in the bracket of below 25,000 per month. Second, an employee for whom the entire contribution is paid by the government under all these pension plans and all will not be covered. So where for this particular employee, the entire amount is paid by the government itself, the deduction will not be allowed. It will not be considered as additional employee. Second, the employee who is not a part of recognized provident fund. So where the provident fund is unrecognized, deduction is not allowed. And very important condition is condition D. The employee should be a long-term employee. Now, what is a long-term employee? The long-term employee means the employee who has worked for at least 240 days during that year. So the year in which you are employing this new employee, that employee should have worked for at least 240 days in that particular year. If the employee has worked below 240 days, we will not consider that as a new employee, because otherwise what people will do, they will hire short-term employees and they will relieve them just to get the benefit of this section. So that should not happen. That is why they have specifically put this condition. Now here there is an exception. If you are engaged in seasonal businesses, like they've given example, apparel, footwear, leather products, in that case, instead of 240, the condition is 150 days. So the new employee, one, should be in the lower bracket. So it would be the worker class. Two, the new employee should have served for minimum 240 or 150 days. If they have not served, we will not give you this deduction. So this is what is the conditions, right? Now, once you satisfy the above conditions, the deduction is 30% of this additional employee's cost, in short, which is your salary. And this 30% will be allowed year one, year two, year three. Next. Now they have used this word emolument. So that 25,000, which you have to check is you have to check the emolument. What is emolument? It is the amount which you are making payment to the employee. So in very simple words, it is your salary. Now, which type of salary? It is your salary, which is your, I will say, a monetary salary. So what will be excluded? What will not be counted while determining that 25,000? It is the employer's contribution, because this is not given in money form. It is transferred to your provident fund account. So that will not be counted. Plus, where employee is given any lump sum payment towards the termination or towards superannuation or some voluntary retirement, things like any of this, which is one-time payment, that will also not be included in determining the 25,000. So in short, only monetary payments like basic, like allowances, like commission, only that which is paid or payable to the employee will be counted for determining the 25,000 limit. Now, besides this, there are some procedural conditions. First, the business should be a new business. It should not be formed by splitting up of old business. It should be a fresh new business. Second, it should not have been acquired by way of transfer by some person. So it means you should have started your own business and you should not have simply taken over the business of some other person under some business reorganization like amalgamation, demerger, etc. And second, since you are covered in 44AB, your accountant, who is obviously your chartered accountant, that is your auditor, should provide the prescribed details in the audit report, which he is going to prepare under section 44AB, prescribed details relating to this section. Yes, you have satisfied all these conditions. That is what your accountant, that is chartered accountant, should specify. ASTA is asking, sir, if entity is employing 1000 new employees, but employees give resignation that were 1100, then again we will not get deduction. Yes, beta. So that is why the language is very clear, because it may happen out of the employees which were there in the last year, some may have resigned. So that will reduce your workforce. Now you are employing even the employees in that resignation places also, but that will not be counted. We will count only the employee which will increase your total workforce. Ishan is asking, sir, in all three succeeding assessment year, same amount or we have to compute for each year? Very good question, Ishan. Now, Ishan is asking, sir, in every year, whether we'll compute separate amount. So students understand this. Now I take this example again. So in year one, where all the employees are new employees, and assuming all these conditions of 25,000 and all are satisfied, so the total salary that you are paying to these employees is what is eligible. Now, this salary, let us say in the year one is 100. So, year one 30, year two 30, year three 30. Now comes year two, where you are making payment of salary of 145, out of which 100 is to the old employees only, so that is not counted. 45 is to new employees, which will be counted, and out of 45 the eligible amount is, let us say, 40, considering the restrictions and exceptions given. Now in year 2, your eligible salary for this deduction is 40. We have to take 30% of this. So in year 2, I will take 30%, which is 12. Year 3, 12. Year 4, 12. So now effectively, Ishan, what is happening? In year 2, you are already having this 30 coming from the first year employee salary, and the new employees which you have hired in year 2, their 30% is coming as 12. So in year 2, your total deduction is 42. Let us say similarly in year 3, the additional employee salary, that is the new employees which satisfy all the conditions, is coming to 20. Now 30% of this 20 is 6, 6, 6. So in year 3, your deduction under this section is for year 1, that 30 rupees, year 2, 12 rupees, and year 3 new employees 6 rupees. So your total deduction in year 3 is 48 rupees. Ishan, I hope you understood, and even everybody else understood that whether we have to compute amount each year. Answer is yes, because in the second year again you'll have new employees. So first year's 30% plus second year's new employee salary is 30%. That would be. Nidhi is asking, severance pay kya hota hai, sir? Severance pay, beta, when the employee is removed, whatever retirement benefits you pay, like your VRS payment, like your gratuity payment, all these are called as severance. Severance means jisko hum hatate hain, nikalte hain, uska payment. Asa is asking, sir, 240 is continuous, or there can be situation that within a year or some period he resigned and joined? No, beta. Resigning and joining, that period then is gone. When you join from that 240. Dhanush, I hope you got the answer now. 30, 30, 30 deduction. Yash is asking, so sir, if I add one employee every year in my business, so I'll get 30% for every 3 years. Yes, beta. So whatever is the salary paid to that new employee which you are adding, that employee salary, 30% of that will be allowed. So every year, if you are hiring employees which is increasing your workforce, definitely you'll get the deduction. Yes, beta. Ishan is again asking a very relevant question. Sir, what will happen if in the second year the number of employees reduce? So whether I'll still continue to get the first year's 30% in the second year? Answer is yes. See, if in second year your employees reduce, you will not get any fresh deduction of any new employees because there are no new. But what you employed in the first year, and if the first year employees have served the 240 days, which is the requirement, then their salary will continue for first, second, and third year, even though the number of employees reduce in the second or in the third year. Is this fine, students? Everyone understood this section? Slightly tricky, but very interesting. Correct? Great. We'll take a 15 minutes break, our scheduled break, and we rejoin after that. Right? In the meantime, after you take your 5 minutes break, next 10 minutes, even though I'm on break, you are expected to read this section again, so that in case there are any doubts, we can get it cleared from. Fine? Okay, so let me first take your doubts, if any. We recompute again in case of all in additional employees. No, but why we recompute, Anil? I think I already answered Ishan's question that once I get deduction in 1 year, even if my employees reduce in the second year, the first year's amount which I computed, which will continue for 3 years, will not change. That will remain constant for the 3 years. What will happen if my employees have reduced in the second year? I will not get fresh deduction in second year, but the deduction which I have started claiming in the first year, which continue for 3 years, will continue. Yes, Asta, you're right. So in 80EEB, you get deduction only where it is an exclusive EV. If it is a hybrid or vehicle, you don't get deduction. Yes, Veda. So in 80EE, the deduction is allowed every year of the interest component whenever you repay the loan. Somesh is asking, sir, if employee salary is more than 25,000, then that employee will not be counted in additional employee. Point two, can you define again? What is this? Point two. Which point two, beta? What do you mean by point two? Define again. Please explain your question, beta. Shagufta. Ranveer is saying illustration 17. Where is this illustration 17? Illustration 17. Okay. Now here you're asking why we took 24,000. Okay, I'm here to solve this. So wait, I'll answer your question, Ranveer. Shagufta Beda, the second point, which covers the conditions, I believe you are talking about this second point. What are the conditions? Your business should not be formed by splitting up. So it means it should be a fresh new business. Second, you should not have purchased business from somebody else. It means you should have started the business fresh. Because if you purchase business from somebody else, it will be not a new business. So both these conditions are hinting to the same point that it should be a new business. And third is, since this section is applicable only to assessees who are liable for tax audit, so in the tax audit report, they should get the details relating to this section filled in by their accountant. Accountant means the chartered accountant who does the tax audit. Fine. Yash is asking, sir, in 80EEB, 1,50,000 is every year or one time, but it is every year because it is dealing with the interest component. So you pay the interest on the loan every year. So every year you get the limit of 150. निधि 80EEB में only electric vehicle का ही condition मिलेगा. Yes, Nidhi. So 80EE is only for electric vehicles, no? Not for petrol vehicles and even not for hybrid. Correct? Okay. Now let us understand this example. So A has commenced the business of manufacturing computers on this date. He employed 350 new employees during this year. Now, since this is the first year, so all employees are additional employees, right? Now we only have to check their other details to fit them into our condition. The detail of whom are as follows. Number of employees 75, date of employment this. 125 date is this. Now what you have to check is you have to check the condition of 240 days, correct? This is eligible because it is 24. This is not eligible. These are eligible because they are all below 25. Now, the regular employee participate in recognized provident fund. So these are participating in regular provident fund. So they are eligible. Casual do not. So casual is out because For getting the deduction, one condition is their monthly salary should be below 25. That is there, but they should also participate in recognized provident fund, which casual are not. So we will ignore casual. Now, compute the deduction, if any, available to A for this. If the profits and gains derived from the manufacture of computer is 75 lakhs and total turnover is this, what would be your answer if A had come in the business? If A has come in the business of manufacture of footwear. Okay. Now, the person who is employed on this day, he is in employment for 365 days. So this is eligible. Condition 240. But the employee who are employed on 1/9. So 1/9 means September, right? September, October, November, December, January, February, March. So how many months are there? These are 7 months, correct? 7 threes are 21. So I will not be satisfying 240. So in this case, this will also be cancelled. So I will be eligible for deduction of only 75 employees multiplied by 24,000. But if you change the business line to footwear, now the condition of 240 is reduced to 150 days. In that case, even this employee, that is 100 into 24, will also be eligible. So there are two parts in the answers. So in the first part, 24,000 into 75 employees into 12 months, because that is per month salary. So your total amount is coming to 2 crore 16 lakhs, which is the eligible amount. And in year one, you get 30%. So you get 6480 in year one, and this will continue in year two also, year three also. Then in the second part, where your additional employees, sorry, your business is now changed to footwear. Now the condition is only of 150 days. So even the last category of regular employees will be satisfying. So 2 crore 16 was already there above we calculated. Now even this last category of employee will be included, who are again paid 24,000 for 100 employees, and now they are employed for 7 months. So this is the total salary now. This total salary into 30%. So your deduction is 1 crore 15 lakhs 20,000, and this will continue in year two and year three also. Ranveer, I think now you would have got answer to your query. Right, Beda? Yes, did you get the answer, Ranveer? Perfect. Students, I hope everybody understood all the conditions of this ATJJAA. So they have beautifully explained this. I have also explained you how to compute. So they have given you in the form of notes. This notes is very important because when you are also solving, besides the practical part, you have to show your answers by way of giving relevant notes, because notes forms the basis for marks. Without writing notes, you will not be eligible to get the complete marks for your topic. Now, coming to the next section. Next section is ATQQB. What is the full form? I had given Q. Q banaye books. So this is the question you are asking to the author. This section gives deduction to the authors for their royalty incomes. So they get royalty incomes for publishing books. So when an author writes a book, he will get this royalty from the publisher. Now, the author gets the deduction under this section, where there are two limits given. First is, in terms of amount, the maximum amount of deduction is 3 lakhs, and where the author is getting it in the form of percentage, because many times the royalty that the author gets is a percentage of the sale value of books. So the percentage should not exceed 15. So there are two limits given. Percentage limit. So where the royalty is given in percentage, the percentage should not exceed 15, plus the monetary limit of 3 lakhs. So 3 lakhs monetary limit is there, where the royalty is given as a percentage of the sale value of books, even the percentage limit will apply. Now this deduction applies to obviously individual, because only individuals can be author, and the condition is they should be resident as per your residential status chapter. They may be single or they may be joint authors. So for each of them, the limit will remain 3 lakhs, the maximum limit. Now, what are the other points? Which income is the eligible income? The eligible income is the income which you get in the form of royalty, and this is given for assignment of the rights in the copyright of the book. That is for what you get the royalty. Now, what type of book it should be? It should be a literary book, that is something on literature, artistic, where some type of artwork is done, or it may be of scientific nature. So all these novels and all that will come in artistic, scientific, we understand. Then what is the nature of income? Nature is the royalty or the copyright fees, which may be given lump sum, that is one payment, or it may be, as we discussed, percentage of the value of book. Now, this deduction shall not be available in respect of royalty for textbooks. So for schools, we have all those Bal Bharati books. There are also some authors may have contributed to that books. They are not eligible for this deduction. Similarly, in schools, we had those guides, we have some commentaries, we have some diaries, magazine. All these are not eligible. Only the books of artistic, literary, or scientific nature are eligible. Again, same condition. Where you claim deduction under this section, no deduction in respect of this same income will be allowed under any other provisions. Now, if the royalty is in percentage, then both the limits will apply. Firstly, you'll apply the percentage limit. So let us say you are given royalty at 20% and the royalty amount comes to 20 lakhs, for example. So if 20% is 20 lakhs, then 15% will be 15 lakhs. So first, you apply the percentage limit. So now the eligible royalty is 15 lakhs. And then you also compare it with the monetary limit. So whichever is less, finally, the deduction would be 3 lakhs. So where royalty is given as a percentage of sale price, you apply both the limits. Now this condition of percentage obviously will not apply where the royalty is given lump sum. So where royalty is one single amount, this limit will not apply. Yash is saying, sir, if I write a book on science, but CBSE starts to teach my book. Ha! See, beta, if you write a book which is originally not a syllabus book, it is eligible, even though some school may take that book as a part of their curriculum. But when you write a book specifically for a school's curriculum, then it is not eligible. So that is what is the difference. So originally you have written the book on the subject, not following the school's curriculum. Your book is eligible, even though later on they take it up in their curriculum. That is their choice, right? Now, certificate. For claiming this deduction, the assessee, that is the author, shall have to furnish a certificate in the prescribed manner in the prescribed form, duly verified by the person responsible for making such payment. So you will have to get a certificate from the publisher who will give all the above details, that what is the nature of the book, what is the percentage of royalty, what is the total gross royalty, and everything. Why these details are required? So that on that basis, the above workings can be done and even checked by the officer. Next, where I have done this authorship for some foreign publisher. So my book is being published in a foreign country. Obviously, the royalty which I'm now earning is in foreign currency. Now, this is a common condition for all foreign currency incomes, that wherever any benefit is given for foreign currency related incomes, the condition is that this foreign currency income should be repatriated, that is brought back to India, and the time limit given is 6 months from the end of the previous year. So within this period, you should bring that foreign currency, which is in convertible foreign currency form, into India. Now, you may have earned, let us say, $1 lakh as royalty. But if you could bring only $75,000 into India within the time limit, $75,000 will only be considered for the purpose of computing your deduction. So what is brought into India within the time limit, or if any extension is allowed, only that much amount will be considered and not the total royalty earned. So let us take this example. So Mr. Akash earned a royalty of 2,88,000 from foreign country for a book authored by him. Now the rate is 18%. The expenditure incurred by him for earning this royalty is 40,000. So in the income column, the income that would be firstly included in your GTI would be this minus this, because that is what is your income. So you have included 2,48,000 in your total income computation. Now, the amount remitted to India till the due date allowed is 230. So my workings will be on the basis of 230 only and not on the basis of 288, because I could not bring the 288 amount into India. Now, as you can see, this is at 18%. So I will apply my maximum limit of 15% and I will try to cover this amount from 80% to 15%. And then whatever is this 15% amount, that is only what is eligible for deduction. So 15% amount is coming to 2,40,000. So 2,40,000 amount is what is the eligible amount for deduction. From this, I'm subtracting, oh, sorry, not the subtracting. Now, this is the amount of royalty which I've earned at the rate of 15%. I compare it with the amount which I've actually brought into India. So the amount which is actually brought into India minus the expenses, because this I have incurred. So net amount which I'm getting is 190, which is eligible for deduction. So I converted this 18% amount to 15%. This 15% should have been eligible. However, since this is a foreign earned royalty, I have to compare with the amount which is actually brought into India. So that is what is the final amount which is eligible for deduction. However, since I have incurred some expense, that will be adjusted and I will get my final deduction amount. Similar is another section which is 80RRB. This is also royalty, but this is royalty for patent. So where you have done some invention, got your invention patented, and now you are giving this patent to other persons for use and charging royalty. Again, the eligible deduction is up to maximum rupees 3 lakhs. Again, if this is earned outside India, the same condition that you should bring it into India in convertible foreign exchange within a period of 6 months from the end of the previous year or any further time allowed. Now, this is an important section, 80TTA. Now, along with this, you have to also understand there is another section, 80TTB. Now, both these sections gives you deduction for your interest income. So understand this. This interest income, you are first including it in your GTI under the head other sources. Again, so first you include it over there and then you show it as deduction under Chapter 6A under 80TTA or TTB. Now, what is the difference between TTA and TTB? There are three differences. First, TTA is applicable to a non-senior individual. So person who is non-senior, that is not attained the age of 60, will be covered here. The person who is a senior citizen who has attained the age of 60 and is also resident in India would be covered in TTB. So this is the first difference. Second difference is 80TTB covers two types of interest. What are those two types of interest? The two types of interest are interest from saving account also and interest from FD also. So 80TTB will give you deduction for both FD interest and saving account interest, whereas 80TTA will give you deduction only for the saving bank account interest. So this is your second difference. And the third difference is the maximum limit of deduction. So your interest income may be any amount, but here we give you deduction up to 10,000. And here for senior citizen, the deduction is up to 50,000. And then Asta C, the same condition where the interest is earned by the AOP BOI because the deposits are in their name. So since it is earned by them, the partners or the members cannot claim deduction under this section. Same like the point where the expense or deposit is made by AOP BOI, the partners or their members cannot get the deduction. Same here, since this deduction is related to income, if this account saving or FD is in the name of AOP BOI, so the interest is earned by AOP BOI, so their members or their partners will not be allowed deduction because it is not their income. I hope this is clear, madam. Now, ATU, this we had discussed along with ATDT. So it is just a repetition. ATU harmonizes the criteria for defining disability as existing under the income tax rules, etc., eligible. This applies to a resident individual who is certified by the medical authority to be a person with disability. So where you are suffering from disability, you will get deduction under ATU. Now, what could be the different disabilities? It could be autism, cerebral palsy, multiple disabilities, etc. Same thing, a flat deduction of 75,000, or where your disability is severe, which is 80% or more, it is a flat deduction of 125. So this is the only section, ATDD and ATU, where there is no limit. The amount given is the final deduction. Now, same condition, you should have a certificate from the prescribed medical authority who should be certifying the percentage of disability. Further, where your disability requires reassessment because you have to check whether there is disability or not, or is it cured, or what is the percentage, you should get a fresh certificate from your medical authority. Otherwise, you will not be eligible to claim deduction in the future years. So with this, we complete entire chapter 6A, all the relevant sections relevant to your syllabus at Inters. Now we'll go to SEZ section 10AA. Before that, Asta is asking, sir, 3 lakhs limit is applicable in getting the lump sum payment as well as in percentage form. Yes, beta. So wherever priority is given in percentage, so as we saw in the example also, you first apply the percentage limit. So if royalty is given at 20%, so you convert the 20% to 50%. Obviously, the amount will reduce. Now, this reduced amount, which is at 15%, you compare it with 3 lakhs, whichever is lower is your final deduction. Correct? So, in case where royalty is received in percentage form, both the limits are applicable together. Fine, beta? Now we come to section 10AA. Now, section 10AA is applicable to SEZ units. So, if you have started a unit in the special economic zone, you will be eligible for 10AA deduction. So what it says, a deduction of profits and gains which are derived by an assessee being an entrepreneur from export of articles or service shall be allowed. So 10AA is for SEZ units and 10AA will give you deduction only where you are exporting. So basically SEZ is for exports only, but let us say you're also doing some domestic sales. In that case, I will not give you complete deduction. The deduction will be limited to the extent of export incomes. Now, in case of individual HF, AOP, BOI, etc., deduction will be available only if they have exercised the option of opting out. This is there for all the deductions. Only there are 2 deductions which are available under the new scheme. Otherwise, all other deductions are available only under the old scheme. Sorry, 3 deductions. Similarly, in case of companies, cooperative societies, deduction would not be available if they opt for the new scheme, that is a special benefit. Deduction would be available only if they are under the old scheme. Fine. So this is the point which is common. Now, who are eligible under this? So you should be an undertaking, that is a unit, and you should be either engage in manufacturing of some goods or for provision of service. Correct? Now, you should be a unit which is under the SEZ as per the SEZ Act. So as per the SEZ Act, you should satisfy the definition of entrepreneur, which means a unit which is operating in SEZ. Correct? Now, for being considered as an entrepreneur, that is a unit in SEZ, you should have a letter of approval given by the commissioner of the SEZ. Only then you are said to be a unit in SEZ, and only then you will be eligible for this deduction. Now, who all are eligible? Those entrepreneurs who have started their manufacturing, or those service providers who have started providing service unit from their SEZ unit during this period, AY 2006-7 to AY 2021. So you should have started your business in SEZ between this period. Now, once you have started business between this period, even today you are allowed the deduction. So deduction will be allowed even today, because as we'll proceed, you'll find that here the deduction is for 1, 5, 15 years. And if somebody has started in 2021, their 15 years are still going on. In fact, if somebody have started even somewhere in 2012, 13, 14, 15, etc., their 15 years are still going on. So all those units who have started between this period of 6-7 to 2021, they will be eligible, because 15 years is the total time limit of deduction that we are going to see in further provisions. Now, so condition is, for fitting in this particular exemption, you should have got the letter of approval before 31st March 2020, which is relevant to AY 2021, right? Now, what is clarified? Let us say the letter of approval is granted by this date, but you could not start the actual manufacturing by 31st March. Then the date for manufacture or production of articles or things has been extended to 31st March 21. So you should have got the letter of approval by this date, and your manufacturing should have started by this date. Then you would be eligible. This is the modified condition. Next, you should get your books audited, and you should submit the audit report as required in section 44AB. That is by 30th of September. Most important, no deduction will be allowed if you furnish the return of income late, that is after the due date under 139(1). So in short, in order to get deduction, your return should be filed within the due date of filing returns under 139(1). Next, now, deduction under this section will be available if your export proceeds are received or brought into India, that is repatriated into India, in the convertible foreign exchange, again within the same time period of 6 months from the end of previous year. This we saw above, even in case of royalty deduction. Now, the export proceeds from sale of goods or service provision shall be deemed to have been received where such export turnover is credited to a separate account maintained. So it is not necessary that you physically bring this foreign currency in India. Even if this foreign currency is deposited in this separate special bank account, even though the bank account is maintained outside India, but since it is done with approval of RBI, depositing money in this bank account is as good as bringing it into India, and you are eligible. Next, now comes the period of deduction. As I said, the deduction is allowed for 15 years. Now, how this 15 years are divided? 5, 5, and further 5. Now, why they have made this 3 parts? In the first 5 years, so I will write like this: first, second, third, fourth, fifth. So in the first 5 years, every year, whatever is your profit from export, so we will take only the export profit, not the total profit. will be allowed as deduction full. So first 5 years, entire export profit is eligible for deduction. Thereafter, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10th year, and 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15th year. This is how the deduction is allowed. Now, from 6th year to the 10th year, the deduction allowed is only half, that is 50% of your export profits. Again, from the 11th year to 15th year, the deduction is allowed again half. Now, somebody will say, ki, sir, where here also it is half and here also it is half. Why they have made two subparts? They could have simply said 6th to 15th year. No, but why they have made two subparts? Because in this last part, that is from 11th year onwards, I'll give you this 50% deduction, provided you have transferred the amount to a special reserve account. And what is this reserve account to be called as? Special Economic Zone Reinvestment Reserve. So for this first two blocks, that is 5 years, there is no need to create the special reserve. So here in the first two blocks of 5 years, I'll give you deduction directly without creating a reserve. But in this last block, which starts from 11th year to 15th year, the deduction is allowed only if you have created a separate reserve account. Now, only creating reserve is not sufficient. Why reserve is created, that you'll get to know further. So this 50%, whatever you want to claim as deduction, this amount should be transferred and maintained in this special reserve account. Now, why this special reserve account is to be maintained, that you'll come to know from here. Now, this special reserve account, which you have created above, and this you have to create for 5 years, starting from 11th to 15th year, this you should utilize within 3 years of its creation. So from the year in which you have created the reserve, you should utilize it. Now, how you should utilize it? First, for purchasing plant or machinery. That is why the name is SEZ Reinvestment Reserve. So indirectly, what the law or the taxation act wants, that you do not take this money home. So you have earned this profit, I am ready to give you deduction. But with the condition the profit remains in SEZ. How? By reinvesting in SEZ by purchasing machinery. Further, until you purchase this machinery, you can further use it for purposes of business. Now, when I say you can use it for purposes of business, it means even making payment of your salaries and making payment for purchases. This is what is using it for business. But you are not allowed to use it for following payments. One, giving it away as dividends, because that will be taking the money out of the business, not allowed. Similarly, for making payments outside India. See, I do not want the money to go outside India also. And also, I do not want you to buy assets outside India. So I want the money to be in India and invested in SEZ. Fine. Now, once you purchase this plant and machinery, you have to provide the details of this plant and machinery by way of furnishing the relevant details to the income tax department. So CBDT has specified what information you should furnish relating to the plant and machinery. So the purpose is simple. Why they are creating this condition? So that whatever new plant and machinery you are acquiring, you provide this details like the name of the supplier, the date of its purchase, when you are putting it to use, etc. And you have to provide it along with your return of income. So this is done so that they can keep a track whether or not you have utilized it properly as per the requirement. Now, what if either you are not able to utilize and the 3-year period pass, or you have wrongly utilized it? So in either case, if you are not able to utilize it, then also the punishment is same. What is the punishment? It will be treated as income. Or where you have misutilized it, again it is same. So the amount which is misutilized will be treated as income and tax. So you have utilized it for purpose other than the specified purpose, or you have not been able to utilize and the period of 3 years has expired. So in either case, it will be taxed as your profits. So I earlier allowed deduction. Now I am taking back the deduction. Now coming to the point of how to compute deduction. So the deduction is either 100% or it is 50% of what? Of your export profits. How to compute export profits that they have given. So first find out profit of the entire SEZ unit and proportionate it. How to proportionate? Numerator take only export turnover, denominator take total turnover. So since we want the profit arising out of exports, but your business is having single P&L, in that business, if you have both type of sales, export also and domestic also, I want to give you benefit only for the export profits. So whatever is your total profit, you proportionate it by multiplying by this numerator is export turnover and divided by the total turnover in the denominator. Now, there are some important pointers given relating to the computation of this turnover. So first is relating to export of softwares. Now, what they say, 10A provides deduction to assessee who derives profits from export of articles or even services which include software from the year in which the unit begins to manufacture, produce such article, etc., etc. Now, the profits and gains derived from on-site development of computer software shall be deemed to be the profits derived from export of computer software. Now, what is this? Now, you would be knowing Indian export firms, which may be Tata Consultancy Services, or there are so many Patni Computers, so many various software providers, which are renowned for their software services. Even your this who has made the GST, and all these are your big software companies. Now, many times when they get a foreign contract, they are required to send their engineers who will be stationed at the customers or the client side, and they will sit there and develop the software. So it is not that I have developed software in my office in India and then send the software outside. Instead, I have sent my engineers outside who will be there on the project site for, let us say, 6 months, 10 months, whatever is the time required. They will sit there, they will develop the software, they will test it, run it, and once everything is finalized, they will come back. Now, in such cases, you are actually not sending anything outside India. You're directly making it outside India. The clarification is it will also be deemed to be export. In other words, eligible for the above calculation. Now, important points relating to this working. What it says, when we are talking about numerator, export turnover does not means the value of export. It means the amount which you have brought into India. So again, same point what we studied in royalty also. It may happen that your export is of 100 crores. But if you have received only 90 crores, then in numerator, I will take 90 crores. Denominator will be entire 100 because denominator is total turnover. So I will only take that much amount of consideration relating to the export, which you are able to bring back into India within the time limit allowed, which is 6 months, or if the competent authority extends it further. Important. However, what will not be included in the export turnover is this amount. And what is this amount? Many times in your invoice, besides the value of goods, you add all these expenses. So you add freight charges, you add some insurance charges. So you recover all these things from your customer. So your total bill is 100 plus 12, 112, where 12 represents freight, insurance, etc. So what this provision or this particular clarification is saying, we want purely the value of goods and services which you are exporting. If you are adding some expenses because you have incurred those expenses, so these expenses, even though added in your invoice, will not be counted in export turnover. Okay. Now, some clarifications relating to deduction of freight telecom. So you have to deduct it from export turnover. So there is a clarification. So export turnover will not include this expenses which you have added to your invoice, right? Now, what they are saying, attributable to delivery of particular thing outside India, or expenses, if any, incurred in foreign exchange in rendering the service outside India, like computer software. Now, this circular, which was given in 2018, clarifies that this freight, telecom charges, insurance, which are excluded from export turnover, are also excluded from denominator. So when you are excluding this freight charges in numerator, you will exclude it from the denominator as well to bring parity. So this is very logical, and denominator also. Similarly, expenses incurred in foreign exchange for providing services outside India, that will be excluded again from both export turnover also and even total turnover. Now some more conditions and restrictions. So restrictions on other tax benefits. Now we all know that if there is any business loss, which is covered in section 72, or if there is any capital loss, it is covered in section 74. What it says, insofar as such loss relates to the business of the undertaking, that is the SEZ unit, shall be allowed to be carried forward or set off. So what they have clarified is, we are giving deduction of profit. So if there is profit, we give you deduction. But what if there is no profit? Instead, you incur a loss. If you are incurring a loss, then it is not that the loss will go waste. We will allow you to carry forward the loss and set it off in the future whenever you get profits. Further, during this period of deduction, which is of 15 years, depreciation is also deemed to have been allowed on the asset. So WDV will be calculated accordingly. Further, no deduction will be allowed under the other sections. That is, if you remember, heading C is all these sections. So once you claim it 10AA, you cannot claim it again in heading C. Next, again, where you are having different businesses, one is eligible and one is not eligible, and you are transferring goods or services between these two businesses, eligible and ineligible, what we will do? We will consider the market value in order to compute your profits of both the business. So this point we had studied even in section 80A, which is the common condition for chapter 6A deduction. So the similar point is there in 10AA also, because you may have two businesses, one in SEZ, one outside, or one eligible, one not eligible. So you should not take undue advantage. So this point is given. Further, double deduction is not allowed. So if your business is also covered in 35AD, either you take 10AA benefit or you take 35AD benefit. Now, what if before this 15 years, which is the total time limit, your undertaking has been merged or demerged? So before expiry of 15 years, your unit under amalgamation now becomes part of some other company. What will happen? In such case, the unit will be still entitled to the deduction, right? Before the expiry of the period specified in this section to under being the unit in the scheme of amalgamation, etc. So what it says, whenever there is amalgamation demerger, the unit, that is this SEZ unit, which is entitled to deduction, if that unit is transferred to another undertaking, then what will happen? No deduction shall be admissible to the old unit in the previous year in which this demerger took place. So now there are two units, the old, which is under the existing company, and now in the same year after demerger or after amalgamation, it will be part of the new company. So what they're trying to tell is, now the old company will not get the deduction. However, the provision will apply to the new company, and they will be eligible for getting this deduction. So in short, whenever there is amalgamation demerger, the benefit of this deduction will be allowed to the new company. So these are all the provisions relating to deduction chapter 6 and 10AA. So we have 5 minutes, so we can take your questions, students. Nidhi is asking, today is last class for this chapter. Yes, beta. Nidhi is again asking, sir, actual amount का half होगा या half हुए amount half होगा? अच्छा, बाप रे, एक्चुअल अमाउंट का हाफ होगा या हाफ हुए अमाउंट हाफ होगा? बाप रे, इसको इंटरप्रेट करने के लिए निधि, आई विल रिक्वायर सम एक्सपर्ट टू इंटरप्रेट दिस सेंटेंस ऑफ योर्स. But what I understand from what you are saying, which I have understood, is whether the deduction will be half of half. I don't think so. So simply you'll calculate export profit, and that export profit you will multiply by 50%. So there will be only half. Half का वापस half नहीं होगा बेटा. Yash is asking, sir, can we buy machine from outside India? Yes, you cannot create asset outside India, but you can definitely buy asset from outside India so far as the asset is going to be operated in India. Ishan is asking, sir, export of computer software, please explain again. See, but a computer software, they have given a clarification, Ishan. See, generally what we call as export, what you have produced in India and from India you are sending outside is export. So in case of computer software, there is a very unique situation. One is you create the software here sitting in the Indian office. You create it here with your team, and then you send the through a CD or online, you can remit it to the person sitting outside. But many times where the software has to integrate multiple, uh, what you can say, multiple functions, and it has to be developed at the customer side. So what these software companies do, they depute their team at the customer side, which is, let us say, in UK. So my team of 10 software engineers, including their project manager, etc., will be deputed on the customer side, and they will do the whole software development sitting there. Now, when they are doing the whole software development sitting there, practically I have not sent the software from India to UK. The software is made in UK itself. In such a case, the question was whether it will be considered as export. So Ishan, this is what they have clarified, that in case of computer software, even if you sit there and make, then also it will be considered as export. Fine. शगुफ्ता is asking, sir, अभी तो समझ आ गया है, लेकिन अगर बाद में कुछ पूछना हुआ तो. See, Shagupta, we always have towards the end one doubt solving session again. So you can always get your doubts cleared. Also, even in the next class, even if the topic has changed, you can definitely get your doubts cleared. Didi, please ask your question. I'm still then not clear with your question, क्योंकि मुझे आपका क्वेश्चन ही बहुत कंफ्यूजिंग लगा था. आस्था, sir, export turnover that is left to be repatriated in India, in which it is earned, can SSC get deduction? No, beta. So it has to be repatriated within the time limit. If not, it is gone. So अगर आपको अगले साल भी वो बचा हुआ अमाउंट आया, it will not be considered. Nidhi, please put your question in simple language. बेटा 15% वाला कॉन्सेप्ट यश इज सिंपल. अगर मैं आपको रॉयल्टी 20% से दे रहा हूँ, समझो 2 लाख रुपए रॉयल्टी दिया, विच इज कैलकुलेटेड बाय टेकिंग 20%. सो 2 लाख अगर 20% है तो 15% कितना होगा? 1.5 लाख. सो यू विल गेट डिडक्शन considering the royalty as 1.5 lakh, which is 15%. Because in case of royalty, the limit of 15% is there wherever royalty is given in percentage. So if you are given royalty at a higher percentage, we will consider for deduction royalty at the lower percentage. That is what is the 15% wala concept. What should I say? If loan sanctioned for electric vehicle after this date, yes, beta. So if they have given some time limit, your loan should be sanctioned within that time. If it is getting sanctioned after that time, it is not eligible. You're right. Nidhi, beta, please post your question. Ishan, sir, like in ATG for edition, it is lower of the amount of deduction or 10%. There is 10 and 50% category. That if we calculate 100% category and lower is 10% of UTI, then do we have to check for 50%? See, if you remember that example, Ishan, this 10% of adjusted UTI is applicable to both categories of 150 combined. So what was done there? We will first find out that 10% of adjusted UTI, that is my maximum limit. Now in that example, the limit was coming as 60,000. Now I had one donation which was eligible for 100%, the amount was 40,000. The other donation which was eligible for 50%, the amount was 50,000. Now this 60,000, आई विल फर्स्ट यूज फॉर दिस लिमिट ऑफ 100% डिडक्शन. वो डिडक्शन कितना 40,000. सो 40 and 60. So 40 is lower. So you get the deduction of this 40,000 at the rate of 100%. Now, out of the limit, you have used 40,000 in the first category. So for the second category, the limit left is 20,000. So now for the second category, which is 50% donation, the donation amount was 50,000. Compare it with the balance limit 20,000, whichever is lower. So now the amount left is 20,000. Take 50% of that. Yes, beta. निधि यू आर करेक्ट. सो पहले 5 साल जो भी प्रॉफिट आया वो पूरा डिडक्शन मिला 100% हर साल. उसके अगले 5 साल में जो प्रॉफिट आ रहा है उस प्रॉफिट का आपको आधा मिलेगा. सो स्टिल इफ यू वांट यू कैन अनम्यूट एंड आस्क यू बेटा. यू कैन अनम्यूट एंड आस्क इफ यू वांट. नहीं बेटा, सी इफ द अमाउंट, let us your limit is lower than the 100% category amount. So let us in my example the 100% category amount was 40,000, limit is 35,000. So your 35,000 will be exhausted in the 100% category only. So you'll get deduction of 35,000 into 100%. That's it. The limit is over. No deduction for 50%. आप टोटल 60,000 जो उस एग्जाम्पल में लिमिट आया था, आप टोटल 60,000 तक का डिडक्शन ले सकते हो. अब अगर वो 60,000 आपका खत्म हो जाता है in your 100% only because 100% amount is higher, in that case बेटा आपको फिर 50% में कुछ बचेगा ही नहीं. करेक्ट. maybe I have unmuted you.
यस
yes
सर.
बेटा, थोड़ा आवाज जोर से बोलो बेटा.
सर यस सर, आवाज आ रही है सर?
अभी आ रही है बेटा, बोलिए.
सर जो मैंने कहा कि क्रिएटिव असेसमेंट ईयर में 100% हो जा रहा है, फिर सेकेंड ईयर में हम 5 जो बचे हुए असेसमेंट ईयर है उसका 50% कर रहे हैं. फिर ये जो 50% ऑफ रिजर्व में डालने के लिए है वो क्या है, वो क्या?
बेटा देखो, आपको हर साल प्रॉफिट आ रहा है. पहले 5 साल जो जो भी
यस सर.
प्रॉफिट आएगा वो प्रॉफिट का पूरा डिडक्शन. सही है.
यस सर.
कि हर साल आप अलग प्रॉफिट कमाओगे ना. किसी साल 100 करोड़, किसी साल 80 करोड़, किसी साल 150 करोड़,
जी.
किसी साल 500 करोड़. जितना प्रॉफिट है पहले 5 साल का जो जो प्रॉफिट आएगा हर साल वो प्रॉफिट पूरा आपको डिडक्शन मिल जाएगा. सही.
अच्छा. यस
अब
सर.
6वें साल से 10वें साल तक वापस हर साल आप अलग अलग प्रॉफिट कमाओगे.
यस सर.
जो प्रॉफिट आप कमाओगे 6वें साल में उसका आधा डिडक्शन उस साल मिल जाएगा, बचा हुआ आधा टैक्सेबल. 7वें साल में जो कमाओगे
ओके
उसका
सर.
आधा डिडक्शन मिल जाएगा, आधा टैक्सेबल. ऐसा 10वें साल तक चलेगा. और ये पहले 10 साल तक के प्रॉफिट के लिए रिजर्व क्रिएट करने की कोई जरूरत नहीं. तो जो प्रॉफिट है पूरा डिडक्शन ले लो आप, या वो जो प्रॉफिट है उसका आधा डिडक्शन ले लो, बात खत्म. करेक्ट.
डन सर.
अब 11वें साल का प्रॉफिट आया समझो 500 करोड़, जिसका आपको मैं डिडक्शन
यस.
अलाउ कर रहा हूँ 50%. तो 500 करोड़ का 50% हो गया 250 करोड़.
यस सर.
अब ये 250 करोड़ का मैं आपको डिडक्शन देने को तैयार हूं, मगर मैंने बोला भाई एक स्पेशल अकाउंट बनाओ आपके बुक्स में जिसका नाम है एसईजेड रीडेवलपमेंट रिजर्व अकाउंट.
रिजर्व.
और वो ये जो 250 आप प्रॉफिट
यस
सी
सर.
अपन अकाउंट्स में एंट्री पास कर देते ना, प्रॉफिट एंड लॉस में ट्रांसफर टू रिजर्व. तो आपके
यस सर. यस
500 प्रॉफिट में से 500 करोड़ में से जो आपको आधे का डिडक्शन चाहिए ना, ये आधा आप रिजर्व में ट्रांसफर कर
यस.
दो. तो
यस
उससे
सर.
क्या होगा, वो
आधे का.
प्रॉफिट अब आप अपने पार्टनर्स को, अपने ओनर्स को बांट नहीं पाओगे, वो फिर आप बिजनेस में री इन्वेस्ट करोगे. दिस इज व्हाट इज द पॉइंट. अभी समझा बेटा.
डन सर. यस सर. थैंक यू.
यस. ओके. Asta is asking, sir, in case of amalgamated or demerged unit, they will get deduction for. Yes, yes बेटा, 15% जो है आपका, अगर इधर 9 साल यूज हो गया तो इधर बचे हुए 6 साल यूज होगा. और वो भी जो कंडीशन है वो वही रहेगी कि 11th ईयर से यूल हैव टू टेक ट्रांसफर टू रिजर्व ऑल्सो. सो यू विल गेट फॉर बैलेंस 15. वापस 15 नहीं स्टार्ट होगा. Rajveer is saying 11 to 15 year deduction will be allowed 50% of actual transfer. नॉट एक्चुअल ट्रांसफर बेटा. प्रॉफिट जो भी आया है उसका 50%. अभी मेरा जो एग्जांपल था 500 करोड़ प्रॉफिट आया 11वें साल का, उसका 50% है 250 करोड़. अब आपको 250 करोड़ का डिडक्शन मिलेगा 11वें साल में, पर आपने 250 करोड़ रिजर्व को ट्रांसफर करने चाहिए. अब आपने रिजर्व को ट्रांसफर किए सिर्फ 200 करोड़. तो भले 50% 250 करोड़ है, पर आपको 200 करोड़ ही मिलेगा जितना आपने ट्रांसफर किया। तो आपको 50% प्रॉफिट का लेना है, वो आ गया 250 करोड़, क्योंकि प्रॉफिट 500 करोड़ है। अब आपको कंपेयर करना है रिजर्व में कितना ट्रांसफर कर रहे हो। आपने रिजर्व में 200 करोड़ ट्रांसफर किया तो आपको 200 करोड़ ही डिडक्शन मिलेगा। अगर समझो आपने 300 करोड़ कर दी तो आपको 250 करोड़ ही मिलेगा, क्योंकि आपको मैं 250 करोड़ जो 50% है उतना ही दे सकता हूँ। यस सोमेश, यू आर राइट। बेटा 250 करोड़ रिजर्व में और 250 करोड़ डिडक्शन ऐसा नहीं है, जितना रिजर्व में उतना डिडक्शन और बचा 250 करोड़ प्रॉफिट आपका फ्री है, आप उसे बांट दो एज डिविडेंड। तो इन शॉर्ट आपके पीएनएल में 500 करोड़ नेट प्रॉफिट आया। फिर हम पीएनएल अप्रोप्रिएशन बनाएंगे, वहां पे हम लिखेंगे ट्रांसफर टू रिजर्व 250 करोड़, और जो बचेगा 250 करोड़ अब आप उसमें से प्रॉफिट बांटो या कुछ भी करो, वो 250 करोड़ आपको बाजू में निकालने। दैट इज व्हाट इज द कंडीशन ऑफ रिजर्व। शगुप्ता। Nishan is saying, sir, so like amount of donation is 40,000 for 100% category. 10% is 50,000. 50% donation is 25,000. Then whole amount of 40 will be used in 100. Perfect. Perfect. अब अब क्या, अब एक चीज समझो बेटा, आपका एडजस्टेड जीटीआई का 10% आया 50,000। 50,000 में से 40,000 आपने 100% में यूज कर लिया तो 10,000 बचा ना। वो 10,000 अब आप सेकेंड डोनेशन के कैटेगरी के लिए यूज करो। अब सेकेंड डोनेशन के कैटेगरी में डोनेशन कितना है 25,000, और उधर अब आपके पास लिमिट कितनी बची 10,000। सो आप 10,000 कंपेयर्ड विथ 25,000 विच एवर इज लोअर, आप उसका 50% ले सकते हो। ईशान। अंडरस्टूड। परफेक्ट ना बेटा। क्लियर। गुड। सो स्टूडेंट्स, आई होप things are clear. Yes, some conditions are technical, some are slightly tricky, some may lead to some confusion. Obviously, एक बार में समझेगा ये मैं भी एक्सपेक्ट नहीं कर रहा हूँ। You should read it twice, thrice, go through the different examples and prepare accordingly. Right? बेटा इशू वही है जो मैंने बताया कि आप एक्सपोर्ट ऑफ कंप्यूटर सॉफ्टवेयर में आप बाहर बैठ के वो कंप्यूटर सॉफ्टवेयर बना रहे हो। दैट इज व्हाट इज द पॉइंट, दैट इज व्हाट इज द इशू। तो उस केस में उसे एक्सपोर्ट कैसे मानेंगे, दैट इज व्हाट दे हैव एक्सप्लेन। करेक्ट। ग्रेट। सो स्टूडेंट्स, थैंक यू वेरी मच। आई एम श्योर I was able to explain you all the provisions. Yes, I again say that एक बार में I will not expect that you become expert. You have to read it again and please keep studying hard. Inter is very manageable. Both groups are definitely manageable. You need a systematic, disciplined study schedule. Keep studying. Very important thing I would like to mention. प्लीज डोंट एक्सपेक्ट आपको सारे सब्जेक्ट्स 100% समझेंगे, आपको सारे सब्जेक्ट्स 100% याद रहेंगे, आपको सारे सब्जेक्ट्स 100% एक्यूरेसी से सॉल्व करते आएंगे। ऐसी गलत फहमियां मत पालिएगा, कहीं पे प्लस माइनस होता है, दैट इज वेरी मच ओके। विद इन द गिवन टाइम दैट यू हैव टू ट्राई टू इंक्रीज योर हिट रेशियो। हिट रेशियो इज कितना आप ज्यादा याद रख सकते हो, कितना आप करेक्टली उसे सॉल्व कर सकते हो। बट डोंट अननेसेसरली बर्डन योर सेल्फ, क्योंकि जितना आप इस चीज को दिमाग में रख के अपने आप को बर्डन करोगे तो वो प्रॉब्लम बढ़ जाएगी, क्योंकि जो आप अदरवाइज इजीली पास हो सकते थे तो वो आपके लिए चैलेंजिंग हो जाएगा, क्योंकि आपने अपने मन में बर्डन रख दिया है कि मुझे तो पूरा आता ही नहीं है तो मैं कैसे पास होऊंगा। ऐसा कुछ नहीं है। आपको जितना आता है अगर आप वो थोरली प्रिपेयर करते हैं, यू हैव अ वेरी गुड चांसेस ऑफ पासिंग। 100% आना चाहिए ये जरूरी नहीं है। कुछ चीजें आपको ओवर द पीरियड ऑफ आर्टिकलशिप समझेगी जब आप रियल लाइफ में ये चीज करोगे। अभी आप इसको सिर्फ एकेडमिकली पढ़ रहे हो। सो प्लीज अप्रिशिएट दिस पॉइंट, प्लीज कीप दिस इन माइंड, and that is why I just think we have not kept the passing percentage or requirement as 75% marks. We want 50% marks only. Why? Because we also understand that the subjects are technical. Also understanding all different subjects together, preparing together may be challenging. So unnecessary burden मत पालिए. In fact, जब आप फ्री माइंड से थोड़ा बहुत एडजस्ट करके मीन्स नहीं समझ रहा है तो भी आप उसको लेट गो करके पढ़ेंगे, देर इज अ गुड पॉसिबिलिटी दैट बिकॉज ऑफ कीपिंग दिस माइंड फ्री, बर्डन फ्री, आपको ज्यादा चीजें याद रहेंगी, आप एग्जाम में ज्यादा अच्छा सॉल्व करेंगे, एंड इट विल डेफिनेटली रिजल्ट इन गेटिंग गुड मार्क्स एंड इवन you may secure a rank. So for that, your rule of study is disciplined study, regular study, nothing else. Fine. So with this closing remarks, thank you very much. Looking forward to connecting you all again. And till then, please keep studying. Whatever your doubts or issues, we at BOS are always there to guide you, support you. Please keep studying. And if there are any queries or doubts, please post it to us. We will definitely see to it that we will resolve it, and you will get the best marks in your exams. So with this, best of luck. Thank you all, and let us be connected. Thank you. Thank you very much, everyone. Keep studying strong, right? I'm not saying study hard, I'll say study strong. Okay? Yes, Manishi. Good night, everyone.